Mic check. Hello and good evening all of you. Good evening Kriti. Good evening Sam. Hello Jayashree. Good evening Mohit. Yes, for now we are scheduling this class for 6 p.m. in the evening. That means the Gazette and current affairs discussion at 6 p.m. and then we have 6:45 the featured news discussion, right? So this is what we hope to continue with for the time being, right? And this is complete apologies on my behalf of having you informed at the last moment, right? So I understand this pain at your end, and thank you for forgiving and still being there with us. So here we begin the interesting discussion on the Gazette, right? So current affairs today. Good evening Anonymous. Good evening to you as well. All right, so let's begin. Today we have quite a few very interesting articles and very interesting editorials as well. So I would like to welcome to you all to the Edukemy's YouTube channel here. And today we will discuss the Gazette magazine current affairs for 26th October 2021. Your daily guide to UPSC current affairs. All right. So today we have on Gazette 1 production gap report. Right. We'll understand what this report is about. Is it about production or the gap that is there in the production, and what kind of gap we are talking of? Very interesting report. This is produced by the United Nations. The second one is an update on GM rice, genetically modified rice. We export a lot of rice to European countries and USA, and some discrepancy has been found. We'll understand what that is. New regulatory framework for non-banking financial companies. It has been introduced, and now we will have them from 2022 onwards for understanding the risk analysis in financial sector. This day in history we have dedicated to instrument of accession. Can anybody tell what year was it signed in, and between who all? Instrument of accession. Featured news for today is on clean environment as human right. This has been agreed to by United Nations itself, and therefore this becomes a very, very hot important topic for discussion. So this is what the featured news for today is on. Today's featured news will also discuss what is the concept of a human right after all, and what is the need for clean environment as a human right. What are the shortcomings and what are the advantages of placing clean environment as a human right? This article also becomes important in light of UPSC asking questions in the pre-exam also about the urban settlement as a human right, right? So similarly, clean environment has been declared as a human right, and we'll discuss this at 6:45 p.m. today itself. Image of the day is on a rare owl species, right? This nocturnal species has finally been found after 150 years. I'll show you the image here, right? Terms and concepts, right? Some of you also do come once in a while, rarely. So this is just like you finding you after 150 years. All right. Terms and concepts. The 4 terms that we discussed today is first one on the third pole. Some updates from there. You will see a stark image of the contrast that has happened because of climate change here at the third pole. Where is the third pole located? Anybody? All right, Kriti says 1947. That's true. The instrument of accession was signed in the year 1947 between Maharaja Hari Singh and Government of India. Absolutely correct, Jayashree. Absolutely correct. Anonymous. True. Tell me, where is this third pole located? All right, India's largest green hydrogen plant is also been inaugurated. We'll understand what this is about. Sela Tunnel, where is it located? This term has been news lately. And the fourth one is nurturing startups. Some update regarding that. Which organization? That is Microsoft, which is doing it with the different verticals and different cohorts in our country. Editorials. The first editorial is an update from Park Strait. It has been in news because of conflicts, because of fishermen. The second one is migrant laborers, right? And there's an update on them. And the third one is on productivity challenges, especially in the service and industry sector. We'll discuss each of them. And case study for today is on gender sensitive workplaces. A very, very beautiful case of Swiggy, one of the service providers in contract gig economy laborership. All right, so we'll understand that case study as well. A beautiful one. Okay, Tibetan Plateau, Himalayas, absolutely correct. Third pole, that is the third pole we are talking of. All right, now Snapshot 1 is on production gap report 2021. This becomes a very important report because it talks about energy production gap. So let me make it clear, this production gap is that of energy. And right now we are not talking of less energy production. We are not talking of less energy production, and it must be increased. In fact, this report actually is exactly opposite of what we might think of it as. the world had promised that they would phase out the conventional energy and they would bring in renewable energy. India itself had promised in the year 2015 and 16 after Paris Climate Agreement that India will reduce down its emission intensity 33 to 35% from 2005 levels, right? India itself had promised that it will curtail down the emissions, carbon emissions. So, but it did not do so. India in fact increased the production of carbon, and it also helped it increase the production of carbon. Not only that, coal and petroleum reserves, they were all exploited. We in fact imported this at a very large scale. The government in fact financed that as well. And that is what this production gap report is about. United Nations Environment Program has had this production gap report produced first in 2019, and now a comprehensive report has come up again regarding production gaps. Now, the idea initially was to phase down these conventional modes of production and have renewable modes, but exactly opposite of that has happened. We have not phased them out. We have in fact increased the amount of production from coal, petroleum, natural gases, those conventional mode of production which were not good for human environment. And that is why Environment Program, United Nations Environment Program has given this production gap report. It has given all the countries a reflection to what they spoke of and what they have actually come up with, right? So this is the production gap report about, right? Now, it says that the production gap is widest for coal, gas and oil. That means the amount of production that was required of this, it has drastically increased. Despite of having it decreased, it has increased with time, right? So one good example has been given of India that I already mentioned. Similarly, other countries also had mentioned that they would decrease the amount of consumption of the conventional sources. But starkly, they have in fact increased the consumption of the conventional sources, right? So this is where production gap report shows us the reality, right? Yesterday itself we have discussed an editorial that what we need is curtailment of around 40% emissions from around 2005 and 10 levels, right? Yesterday itself we studied, but the status of right now is that we are around 20% above those limits, 20% above those limits that were there at 2010, and what is required is to curtail down to 40% below that level, right, by 2030. So is it going to get achieved? No. Who is showing us the light? United Nations Environment Program production gap report. So this report becomes very important. A couple of important pointers you should definitely take in from this report, right? Write them down so that you are able to present it, because you must expect a question like this in the main examination. Completely direct question also, or maybe you can make a reference in your answer that production gap report spoke of these things and these become very important. However, they were not executed, right? So the key findings of this report, see, this becomes very important. There was a plan to cut down on fossil fuel production. It did not happen. Then there was a plan that funding by government would decrease in these kind of infrastructure and setup, conventional energy setup. It did not happen, right? And also there was a news just a few days back. It said that all these elements of data that we see regarding energy production and cutting of emissions, it is very much inaccurate, right? For example, a simple example of this is, for example, considered a company like TCS, right? Renowned company. It is just an example. It is not about TCS. I'm just giving you an example for you to understand it. Now, TCS says that they will curtail the net emissions from them from their organizations by the year 2040 and will make it net zero by 2040, carbon neutral by 2040. If TCS declares this and does achieve it by 2040, it does achieve also, and we all celebrate. But do you know this data is actually not very much accurate? Because TCS also sources a lot of products from other organizations, right? So it will source computer from say suppose Wipro, right? And then it might source some other plastic chairs from another organization. It might source food from some other organization. And we do not know the data for these organizations. What is the level of their present emission? What is the present level of curtailing of these emissions? And how is then one organization rating its emission at net zero by 2040? So these are the kind of questions which came up. In fact, the report, that particular report, not this one, that particular report mentioned that there is a fudging of data, not only fudging, not reporting of data to huge levels, 60 to 70% of variations, and in fact 90% variations could be seen in these kind of data. So this is what that organization report had also mentioned, right? Now, what needs to be done to reduce this gap, right? What kind of gap are we talking of? We are talking of a gap in which the fossil fuel production was to be reduced, but it is not reduced. We have to reduce that gap. We have to reduce the production of these kind of fuel, right? Something contrary to what we have been studying in the last few days, that production must be increased. The report says that it must be decreased so that we aid less climate change because of fossil fuels, right? So first thing is that we have to reduce the fossil fuel production. This is what we have to do. One thing is that. The second one is that we have to transition away, right? That means the renewable energy has to step in. This is second one. And the third one is transparency. Transparency primarily by the government organizations. And then after that, the corporate organizations, they have to show transparency in cutting down these mode of production, right? So yesterday we spoke of the lobbying before COP26, that certain countries are saying do not cut down production on meat, right? South America. Then some countries are talking of not cutting down on production of conventional energy. India is one of them. India, Australia, other countries. We have Saudi Arabia. So these are the countries, and this is where more transparency needs to be shown in what the government talks of openly, and then what it actually executes later. Snapshot 2. Snapshot 2 is on, yes, Bhuvneshwari, you are correct. Instrument of Accession, 1947. Snapshot 2 is on GM rice. See, genetically modified rice. This is what we are talking of. India does not authorize production of any food crop through genetically modified mechanisms, right? We cannot alter the gene structure of anything that we eat and produce in India. Right now, field trials are happening, that is true, but we are not into procurement or selling of this kind of product. Any food product not to be sold in India if it is genetically modified, right? This is the bottom line. And now we should understand why it is in news. It is in news because a certain quantity of this genetically modified rice, it has been found that India was exporting this. India was not actually exporting this rice. It was found that certain quantity of it came out to be as genetically modified rice. Now, advanced countries are very specific about what they will eat and what they will not eat. Certain countries do produce genetically modified organisms for eating also. We have maize production, oil seeds also, they are produced in certain advanced countries also, right? But European Union does not accept these kind of products, and therefore this 500 ton of genetically modified rice, it was sent back to India after due investigation. Now this does not save India from the kind of international ramifications it has, this news has, because India's basmati rice, India's special good quality of rice, which is exported to countries, advanced countries, European Union, UK, USA, all of them import that particular rice, which is found primarily in the Indian subcontinent. And if it is found that India is exporting this, then they would not import from a country like India, right? In fact, there is a huge repercussion on the biodiversity of the region. Leave alone how it will impact humans, the biodiversity itself will get impacted, right? So this is what they are concerned about. Now, countries like Pakistan also exports these varieties. So those countries, Nepal as well, these countries might get that advantage over India in case of issues like this, cropping up again and again. So this is the news. We have explained to you in very short what genetically modified rice, golden rice, is about, right? So in that rice, we are mixing some of the other genes of certain other organisms like maize and daffodil flowers. And what are we trying to do? We are increasing the nutritive value of that rice. So vitamin A in this particular process here is increased, right? So this is the update. Now, India is also running field trials, right? Enclosed field trials, contained field trials, and probably by mistake this was exported, but it does lead to loss of reputation for that country. This case, India, right? Now, right now we have one genetically modified crop, BT cotton, right? And very much in news. This has got another story of its own. Earlier, BT cotton was supposed to be one of the important revolutions in agricultural field, and it did give good returns in the beginning. But later on, people understood that it needs huge amount of inputs as well. Of course, it saves from bollworms, but it needs different kind of inputs, and that has made the whole process very expensive, right? So this is the update from the Snapshot 2. Snapshot 3. Are you guys there with me? Are you guys there? Because there is complete silence. All right. If you're there, just type a yes and we'll move ahead. Snapshot 3. Snapshot 3 is on new regulatory framework for non-banking financial companies. See, RBI is the one which is regulating all the bodies, right? It is the mother regulator in the financial domain, and it tries to regulate many other organizations which are placed under it or alongside, right? So this time it has had a new kind of regulation for non-banking financial companies. These are those organizations which are not into accepting our money, right? Accepting a person's money, but they will lend for some specific purposes. Non-banking financial companies. All right. So these companies could invest in various financial instruments. For example, in real estate projects, they could invest in insurance projects or various other ways they could get involved in, right? So they could also get into microfinance loan capacities. So all these institutions will be divided into various categories, various heads, right? So there is a 4-layer, right? Top layer, upper layer, middle layer, and base layer of NBFCs which will be formed. And this will come into execution in the year 2022. What is the main agenda? Main agenda is to action should be mapped. All right. So this is the most important thing that is required here. Risk associated with these kind of organizations should be mapped, and that is why they are put in different layers. So one specific layer, the one which is in top, these are only specific to those companies which are put in this framework specifically, right? So they are only special companies which could be placed here on the basis of their valuation, on the basis of the kind of business that they do, right? So they will be mapped separately, and there will be 10 specific organizations in this particular part, right? So this is one. And then on the basis of size, activity, risk, nature of the company, all of them will be segregated into different categories, right? So the first one that I said, top layer, will be based on asset size. What is the total net asset size? That is for the top layer, right? So this is important here. And several more changes have been done here. For example, one is the experience of board members. Now, at least one person in the board of these NBFC has to be one from having this kind of experience of that particular NBFC. So this is one important change that has been made. Then NPA asset classification, non-performing asset classification norm, it has been made a little more smoother than before, right? This will come into effect from the year 2022, right? So now how can you utilize this article? This becomes very important. If a question comes on this, right, it will not come straight away on this, but it might talk of NBFC reforms. And this is where I will suggest you start looking into UPSC main examination paper also, right? Say around 10,000 students get through the pre-exam, around, depending on the number of seats, and finally only 2,000 get through for the interview, right? And in that maybe 700 get through for further process, that is the final selection. So 10 to 12 to 15,000, if you people are writing the examination, you must know what kind of questions are asked. So a very small, narrow question will not be asked regarding NBFC, and therefore you have to very much choose and pick what is required from this article. What is required are for example, the classification of NBFCs. So you can draw that image, top layer and the 3 other layers after that. Along with that, you should talk about board member experience. You should talk about NPA asset classification, right? You should also talk about IPO financing. So there has been a limit placed on how much a person can place, when they want to become a part of this IPO, initial public offer. In case the company wants to list itself, they can have maximum 1 crore rupee of IPO, right? IPO financing. And then there are sensitive sector exposure norms also. So certain sensitive sectors, they will have some norms for them while they are exposed to other risks. So some norms will be there which are sector specific, right? So these are the keywords that you should be using, right? And therefore this, at least if you're writing an answer pinpointed to this, it will get completed, right? And for UPSC examination, just these pointers are important because there will be more updates, right? And you will be writing that under NBFC heading, okay? So this is how. All right. This day in history, we have dedicated to the instrument of accession. All of you, in fact, rightly mentioned it was signed in the year 1947, and it was between Maharaja Hari Singh of Kashmir and then government of India. And through this, he said he will become, and all his territory will become a part of the country. In fact, you should know what was the past of Gilgit Baltistan, and we have covered this in one of the featured articles. So just type Gilgit Edukemy, you will get to know what happened during 1947-48 to Gilgit Baltistan. How did they not become an integral part physically, they were a part of our country, but what happened that they wanted to become independent. So that is an allied history to this. This type Gilgit Edukemy, you will find that complete feature article that becomes important from security perspective for the exam as well. So there were a lot of protests against the Maharaja during those times. Now this is a Muslim dominated area, right? Kashmir, and Maharaja Hari Singh was a Hindu, right? So one important reason because of anti-Maharaja protests were also because people wanted to free themselves, right? They wanted another country. Some people also did want to join Pakistan. So this was the history. Featured news for today is on clean environment as a human right, which has now been accepted by United Nations Human Rights Council after their vote. And we will have a quick understanding of this, right? What is human right and why is the human right for clean environment very important? What are the hurdles? What are the advantages in this article at 6:45? All right. Meanwhile, image of the day. Image of the day is on the rare owl species which has been discovered after 150 years. See, if these kind of species are not discovered for a time, then they will also be rated as extinct in the wild by IUCN, right? So this has been classified as vulnerable to extinction, and now some of them have been found. See, owls are nocturnal and they are also elusive. Elusive means they will try to remain aloof. They will not seek society. They will not seek the pleasure of other animals also. Other animals which are of this nature are tigers, leopards, right? Some of the cat family. So this is how they also are nocturnal and remain aloof, right? So terms and concepts for today. Terms and concepts for today are first one, climate change in the third pole. All of you spoke that yes, third pole is around Himalayan region, Tibetan plateau region. Now you can very well see in this image, right, the way the lakes in this China region, they have the net area has increased here. See, this is the figure of 1987 and then this is 2021. You can very well see the amount of ice coverage. This image has been taken up from the satellite. The ice coverage has decreased as we see after around 35 years. Not only that, the expanse of the lake also has increased. See, at the specific part, the lake has expanded, right? So the lake has in fact not only expanded in its dimensions but also in depth, and this clearly shows the change in climate because of which it has happened, right? So you can see the area of the lake has grown by 23%. These are those lakes in the Chinese territory we are talking of. So this is Tibetan region and these are the two lakes, right? So I will not be able to pronounce absolutely correctly, but this is Chipzang and Dorsui Dong lakes, right? So these are the updates from here. You can give these examples while you talk of climate change. India's largest green hydrogen plant. Now see, a question was asked regarding the green carbon, blue carbon and the brown carbon, right? So that distinction we had already studied in case of hydrogen. So green production of hydrogen is the cleanest production of hydrogen. So how, see, when we are talking of new kind of energy production, non-conventional and renewable energy production, it can happen through hydrogen cells. But hydrogen also needs to be produced. It is not present in abundance on the earth. So hydrogen can be produced from 2-3 different kind of modes, right? Cleaner, cleanest, cleaner and not cleaner at all. Cleanest, cleaner and not so clean at all. The cleanest mode is the one which is called as green hydrogen production, green. And then we have blue hydrogen production. And then we have brown hydrogen production as well. Now, the color itself shows how green it could be, how friendly to environment it could be. If hydrogen is produced through green energy, right? So if we are using battery cell technology, which are considered green, then this is green hydrogen production. See, and that is why this place, which is the largest green hydrogen plant, which has been under GAIL now. So here we are using electrolyzer. Electrolysis is happening here, and that is why it is called as green hydrogen production. Blue hydrogen production is the one where the hydrogen will be produced through fossil fuels, gas fuels, right? Those kind of energy which are definitely going to generate greenhouse gases, but they will be sequestered. This is what would the answer for your UPSC question, pre-exam, just this time, just on 10th of October, this was asked. This was asked in reference to carbon, but same thing applies to hydrogen as well. and it will be sequestered. It can be sequestered in the oceans, right? In the coastal ecosystem regions as well. This was the answer. We have discussed this. We have discussed this 3-4 times, and I'm discussing it yet again. And then so that it settles in your mind. And then the third one is brown hydrogen. In case the energy is of course required for production of hydrogen, but if this energy which is required, right, if the greenhouse gases, global warming gases, these gases are released into the atmosphere and they cause global warming further. So this is brown mode of production of hydrogen. Hydrogen will be produced in any case, and then the whole mechanism after production of hydrogen could remain same. That is fine. But green, blue and brown, this is the major distinction. And now we have had a plant with 10 megawatt electrolyzer here, right? So this is the capacity in which it will produce hydrogen here, green hydrogen. This becomes important, okay? So this is a carbon free fuel. This is how you will call it. Sela Tunnel, which is the state? I had asked this question, nobody replied. So this is in Arunachal Pradesh. This tunnel is going to link to an important place, Tawang in Arunachal Pradesh. See, China also claims a huge amount of territory in Arunachal Pradesh. It also claims a good amount of territory in the western sector as well. We are talking of Ladakh region and also states, places in in the western sector. Now, in specific Arunachal Pradesh, China does claim parts of this region as well. We are talking of Tawang. But India has the administrative control and India maintains territorial integrity. This is our stand, territorial integrity to all these places, Arunachal, Himachal, Uttarakhand, Jammu Kashmir, Ladakh, each of them, right? So, India in pursuit of this has provided an all-weather connectivity to Tawang. See, this is such a beautiful map. This is where you will see the mountains. If you can see this clearly, these are the mountains, right? And one will not be able to cross the mountain directly, and therefore a tunnel has been dug here. And this is a two-way tunnel. This is one of the longest two-way tunnels in the world. It is going to get constructed, and this is around 1.5 kilometer long. So these yellow routes that you see are the roads, and these roads will be connected through this tunnel. This is an important tunnel. Another tunnel is being dug here, right? You see, this is a mountain again. Another tunnel is being made to link to the main tunnel, and this is how we are going to connect to Tawang. Tawang is a very important, beautiful destination full of biodiversity at China border, before China border in Arunachal. And you should look at this place from the perspective of understanding India and maps, right? People go there for tourism as well, but Tawang largely remains isolated, right? So this will be the longest bi-lane road tunnel in the world, longest bi-lane road tunnel in the world. Do remember this. All right, so that is why in news, because right now not complete, but it is in the process. All right. The fourth one is leveraging artificial intelligence. Now, who is doing this? Microsoft is enabling India to nurture startups for leveraging artificial intelligence. And one important mechanism it chose, we studied that, was through the field of agriculture technology, right? So the farmer ID, we had spoken about farmer ID. Each farmer will be given a digital ID. Their real estate will be given digital IDs. There were concerns of security. There were concerns of privacy. Of course, those things are there. But using these digital IDs, the government is trying to enable a lot of other cohorts. Cohorts means different groups. So one is farming community. It can also help to provide better services, right? So who is doing this? Microsoft is enabling our country. And in fact, if we do this, level of automation will of course increase. Things will become customer and geography centric, and there will be a huge amount of money that will be invested in the market because of these kind of enabling atmospheres, right? See, many advanced countries are doing this, but it is new to India, and that is why the market is booming related to artificial intelligence technologies. All right. Oh yes, these are new ads, MSP ads. So MSP, when you speak of answer writing, these are the kind of programs that we are running. Amazing program. We have Shabir sir, Dimple and all other people. We have Rahul and many other people who are a part of this. And this is main support program. This is where we will discuss around 300 plus answers, complete answers, handwritten answers. What has been done, we'll break it down to different segments and we'll discuss each and every component of it. Even I'm a part of it from the current affairs section, right? So we'll discuss 30 answers specific to that topic, 30 towards history, 30 towards economy, 30 geography, 30 culture, his culture and history, and then Rahul is taking up that part. And then we have all other sections, polity, governance and current affairs, all those sections are there. This is a 2-month program. and this is how it will get executed. All right, getting to editorials. Editorials of the day, the three of them. The first one is very interesting one. It is on Park Strait. See, India and Sri Lanka do have some issues of border, right? So some islands, do they belong to Sri Lanka? Do they belong to, all right, Prithvi has asked me a question, gray and brown. See, there is also a concept of turquoise hydrogen, turquoise, right? So when I had shown you one of the images of the hydrogen, so we spoke of gray, turquoise, blue and green, right? That was provided by, I think that was provided by a very reputed organization. It was World Economic Forum, WEF, provided that 4 chart, right? And then there are places where I have seen 3 of them, right? So one classification is where we are talking of brown and then blue and green and then turquoise, right? Turquoise falls in between here. This is a color, you must see what turquoise color is like, and this is somewhere in between, the cleanest and the dirtier ones, right? And the second one that I have seen at places is where we speak of gray, blue and green. See, largely you could classify the brown one as gray, as simple as that, right? Blue remains same, and then we have green, right? So do not get confused between these nomenclatures. You should understand the intention. Gray or brown remains those ones which will have the greenhouse gases, global warming gases released in the atmosphere. They will cause global warming, right? So color remains same, right? All right, getting to first editorial, it is on the crisis at the Park Strait. All right, so Park Strait is the region where fishing happens from Indian side and Pakistan and Sri Lanka side as well. Both the parties go there for shipping, but Sri Lanka could not fish much during the last 30 years. See, northern and eastern of Sri Lanka, they were conflict-ridden regions, right? And these regions were conflict-ridden because of the LTTE and all the kind of rebel things that were happening in Sri Lanka. So therefore, venturing into seas and water was not allowed by the government of Sri Lanka. So Indian fishermen could go into the water, but they should not be crossing the International Maritime Boundary Line, IMBL. Is that not correct? Now it is been marked, but it has not been physically marked at those places. And because the Tamilian side, India has a huge population and they want to venture out to be able to collect more resources, more fishes from the ocean, so or the seas. So they would venture out deeper and they would accidentally, or maybe at times out of purpose, they would cross the International Maritime Boundary Line and get into Sri Lankan waters. Now the Sri Lankan Navy has started to investigate all these kind of infringement into their territory, and earlier they were a little relaxed, but now they have started to penalize them heavily. Not only penalize in terms of finances and money, but also in terms of jail sentences, persecution, killing, to the level that the boat also gets drowned. The trawler, fishing trawler gets drowned. Now, this is one issue which is in news. The second part is in news, which was also a part of the editorial, spoke that the fishermen community is composed of 2 groups largely. One, the owners of the fishing trawler boats, and the other one are the fishermen which are in these boats. So F, fishermen and trawler boats. Trawler boats are owned by richer community and fishermen are poorer community. They become more vulnerable because they are at the high seas. They are the one which face the brunt of Sri Lankan army. They are the ones who face the brunt of any cyclone. And the owners of the trawler boats, they all the time encourage people to go deeper into the ocean, and that is why these kind of diesel boats, right? Diesel boats will lead you deeper, right? More into the oceans. So these communities are less vulnerable and they get more profit share. This has been mentioned in the editorial itself. We must do something for the production of fishermen. This is required. And another third dimension that has been mentioned in this beautiful editorial, it speaks of something called as trawler fishing, right? So we are talking of bottom trawling. Yes, the third is bottom trawling. So bottom trawling means these trawler boats, they drag the fishing net. They drag the fishing net to the floor of the sea. They drag it. See, there are many places where fishing is done when the boat is static, and they spread this complete fishing net and fishes get captured. There's another one in which the whole boat is moving and they keep capturing whatever comes in the net. And the third one is that you have, and the third one is the one in which you have the fishing net dragged along the floor. So all the bottom living species, crustacean species and then we have crabs, shrimps, all of them get captured. Even those species which are not required, and this decreases the biodiversity, no, right? It is unrequired for fishing community, but it may be required. Some components may be sold also, so it decreases the biodiversity. And this is the first thing that government wants to strike at. It wants fishermen to understand that using these kind of technology, bottom trawling is not allowed. So this is the third component. The second component is the distinction between Indian fishermen and trawler boat owners, and the third one is the issue between India and Sri Lanka, right? So I have given you a wider opinion into this. All right, now moving on to the second editorial quickly. Migrants keep India moving. See, migrant crisis is a crisis which troubles India, because around 10 crore migrant population resides in India, and crores of those migrant population which are interstate in nature, right? So that's the issue here. Now I would all right, if you happen to like our effort, putting effort for your current affairs discussion, all I would want you to do is put some few words of appreciation, or you could just press a thumbs up, right, like button. And thank you for having done so. I really appreciate the people who are regular here. I can very much relate, and I can see who they are, right, who is regular. Being regular Monday to Friday makes things very easy for your current affairs. So the second one is on migrant laborers who are kept moving from one place to another. Now 2020 there was a huge migrant crisis because of corona lockdown, and 2021 right now we should see this kind of migration happening from Kashmir, and this is because of the terrorism issue, right? So there are places where outsider versus insider issue is also there. What are the places? You're talking of places which speak of nativist laws. One of the places is in Maharashtra. It happens in Mumbai. It also had happened in Assam in 1985. We had Assam Accords because of it, where outsider and versus insider difference was created, right? So earlier in Mumbai, the politicians would talk of South India outsider, right? So earlier the Mumbai local politicians would speak of South Indians as outsider, and after that they started speaking of North Indian as outsiders. So this is where some of the communities, they capitalize on these kind of diverse, divisive elements. But this was uncalled for always. And then Assam Accords also. So these are the examples which are mentioned right here across in the article itself. It goes on to say that Bihar is the one, Bihar state, which bears the brunt of this labor crisis, because it is placed very low in the economic ladder, and more so because of these laborers which have a very less level of education. Not only that, they hardly have any political voice, right? At max, what can happen is chief minister speaking to the other chief minister, speaking about reducing these kind of crises. But they do not have a political voice in that particular state. It is only regional in nature, and therefore there is hardly any resistance, hardly any legal recourse to them, unless and until they are from the influential and rich community. So they go back to their home, there's a reverse migration, and they wait and watch till the times are better, and they face this whole issue again and again, right? Now this is where a very beautiful analysis has been put in the editorial. I have studied this previously as well. It says that there are states like Kerala, Gujarat and Punjab, and there are migrant laborers here also. So Kerala has received services, right? Services through migrants, right? And then Gujarat receives huge manufacturing, right? Because Gujarat is one of the manufacturing states, just like Tamil Nadu is, just like Maharashtra is, and Punjab receives agricultural laborers, right? Agricultural sector laborers. These are also the states, but here the migration is not as much as compared to Assam or Mumbai. You know why? The article itself says it is because the people here, the natives here, have migrated to alien lands. So a lot of people from Kerala go around the world, especially Middle East. A lot of people from Gujarat go to Europe and start working, and go to Canada and USA as well, and a lot of Punjabis as well. So these are the three communities, state communities, from where people have migrated abroad, and therefore they understand what migrant laborer main agenda is. Their agenda is just to earn, and they are all outward looking. These state people largely, this is what the editorial says. I have also read this at several other places, right? So this is in contrary to places like Assam and Mumbai, where incoming migration has happened. Incoming migration has happened in these places, and the people who were belonging to these places, they had to shift out or they had to get aside, and therefore some political elements do utilize this kind of historical context to create enmity, right? To create a barrier between the people from different states. And what should you do? What should we do here? We should always speak of Article 19 under the Constitution. We are talking of freedom of movement inside India, freedom to be able to reside in any part of the territory, freedom to be able to pursue any profession that we want in any regional part of our country. This is what we have to support, right? So this is what this editorial is about. It also says that this is how we will be able to effectively get the benefit of one nation, one ration card policy, and there should be protection of freedom of movement. All right. The third editorial is on productivity challenges in a country, right? This is a technical editorial picked up from Mint, but I will quickly make you understand the very, very useful components of it. See, before that, let me show you the image. See, now this is a skewed image where what is the productivity of a laborer, a skilled laborer, highly skilled laborer. We are talking of IT professionals also. What is the level of value that they create, employment? So this is the level of employment that is created in Karnataka state for a particular employment. We are talking of financial real estate professional services. See, this is the value, the real gross value added per worker in the year 2019 in Karnataka. Whereas if you compare this to other financial, see, this is financial, but this is manufacturing. The second column is for manufacturing. The third is for construction. And then we have trade, commerce, hotel, communication. So the value added per person, efficiency of service, efficiency of work is so good in Karnataka in financial real estate professional services, right? We also see this sector itself as the one which is providing good returns per person, right? And the other sectors are providing lesser returns. So this is one component. The second graph I picked up from the Mint newspapers. It says that the real gross value added per worker, it is increasing in a particular sector, finance, real estate, professional services, IT services. But if you see the other sectors, the gross value added per person, it is only lagging. That means if I am an industrial worker, the amount of value addition that I am doing to the industry in terms of monetary value, it is very less. The efficiency in service is very less. What is required is to increase this kind of service. How can we do that? So it says productivity, working productivity is the key to economic prosperity. And we have seen that there is a very distinct factor which shows that there is skewed productivity here. Interstate, this is one where Karnataka is the one which is leading in many places, and the other one is sector specific. So financial sector is the one where we can see huge amount of productivity, and that is also helped with the IT and IT enabled services, right? So what is required is to have more skilled jobs, see, more skilled jobs and more productivity among people. But what is not aiding is the availability of artificial intelligence, automation. Automation will provide only few jobs. This is one issue. The second one is about pushing the manufacturing sector, right? Manufacturing sector can only be pushed to a limit. See, right now, the proportion of the distribution of employment is such that agriculture is around 50% of employment of a country, and then rest of it is equally distributed between manufacturing and service. So manufacturing has almost gone to one pinnacle, but all we need is more push towards manufacturing, and service is already performing very well as far as efficiency is concerned. Now we see new kinds of jobs: gig workers, cab drivers, delivery partners, security personnel services, and the kind of services that people receive at home, right? So these are the places where you see that new kind of employment has been provided, right? Gig workers, economy workers. So this is where transition of economy and new efficiency services will be provided, right? So this is the editorial largely about, all right? And now we will get back to the last article for today. That is on the case study, a beautiful case study of today, right? So Sam says you are communicating with us like a personal teacher friend. Thank you. Sam, see, this is the advantage of being online at the same time. See, if we are online at the same time, what do? We interact with each other, right? It becomes personalized, and that is what is required, no? If we do it together, you will start to become a part of the whole work, current affairs. It will become a part of your blood and bone. You will remember this. That is the main agenda of making it live. It could have been really, we started this initiative by making it offline earlier. Now we are alive just because we want you to be interacting with us, so that limitations of online education, they get decreased. All right, so this itself becomes a good case study. Online education becomes a good case study for understanding. You might be based, I don't even know who is based at what places, right? But still we are connected now through names, just through names and the kind of questions you ask, we are connected already, right? So this is the advantage, a case in itself. Now this case study is about Swiggy, right? Before that, good evening to Astha, welcome. So case study of the day is on very good practices, gender sensitive practices at workplaces. So lot of gig workers, right, contract workers, they work part-time, right, and they do not know what is the kind of time they will be able to have some leave for them. What is the time when they can actually go for rest, right? I have seen Ola workers working day in and day out just because they have to pay back the installments of their vehicle, right? They are gig workers, right? People who deliver food, they will be working even through the times when there is rainfall, when there is dust storm coming in. Even then they work. Why? To earn meager salary so that they are able to sustain their family. This is where an organization, we have all known of this, Swiggy, has come for a time off for women employees. So women employee will get 2 days of off whenever they need in a particular month. This will not only encourage women employment in the sector, this will also ensure some very, very good leadership practices. Other institutes, other organizations must follow these kind of responsible practices, not only for women, but for all vulnerable sections, no? Because largely we see contract workers, they are the vulnerable ones. We were just speaking of efficiency in providing services. This is the way we provide efficiency, by giving them some time so that they relax, right? So we can see women, females, they have the additional load of handling their homes. But if they're given this kind of advantage of 2 days of leave, they can very well think of getting employed, continuing the employment, right? So this provides better livelihood opportunities for people, and there'll be no question asked policy. Why are you taking this leave, and what is the issue with you, right? So this is a beautiful case study you can put for other leadership, corporate leadership to practice. All right, so this is already 6:54. Within 2 minutes we will meet for the Gazette, for the current affairs discussion, right? Each of you be there 2 minutes and we will meet there within 2 minutes, right? So thanks for watching and being a part. Just join the other link for the featured news discussion. Will start ASAP.